Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. So we're still in a chapter of Nikah, which is a marriage. We gave a brief introduction about this chapter after Salat al-Maghrib. So also we'll read this part here. Sheikh Abdurrahman Sa'di, he says that the marriage contract differs from other contracts in general. It has things that are more unique to it compared to other contracts. There are more benefits and fruits you can reap from the marriage contract, like we talked in Maghrib, compared to any other contract, like buying a car or buying a house. But the marriage agreement has so many benefits with regards to taking care of the wife taking care of you, bringing children to this world, teaching them the deen, having somebody to help you, and so on, having relatives, increasing the ummah, making the Prophet ﷺ proud of this ummah by having more Muslims then guide other people, spreading the deen. It has so many benefits compared to other worldly contracts. Also, any other contract you can do an unlimited number of. If you wanted to buy 100 cars, you can do 100 contracts to buy cars. But when it comes to marriage, you're only limited to what the Sharia allows you. Okay? You cannot marry unlimited number of women, like some cultures in Africa, for instance. They don't have limits. You find a man who has 80 wives, 85 wives, and 100 wives, and so on. Yani. Also, marriage contract. The words are vital, whether you're initiating marriage or ending the marriage. You cannot joke with the wife and tell her that she's divorced. If you say this joking with her, she becomes divorced. You cannot joke in the presence of witnesses and say to a man, "Oh, I want your daughter in marriage," and he says, "Yes, I accept." The marriage will happen just by that. Okay, so it's not a matter to be taken lightly. It has to be taken seriously.
So even if you just say you want someone's daughters in marriage and the person says yes?
Says yes in the presence of, yes, the contract will happen. If you say...
So what if later on...
No, she has the right, of course.
So father will be...
Yeah.
Yani, of course, let's say you know the family and they know that inshallah you will marry this girl and stuff, and then you're sitting together and you say this. The marriage contract will happen. You have to know that you have to be very serious in these words of marriage and talaq.
See how could it be binding? Because in our countries, sometimes you're looking for partners like families, and then they talk and stuff, and then after some time they find out that it's not working for them.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, and that's why you have to watch what you're saying. That's all.
You should not say before you are 100% sure.
Yeah. I'm gonna go sit over there, happy. Also. In marriage, you definitely need shuhud, you need witnesses, and that's a condition for the marriage. Not like other contracts. You can go secretly and buy between you and somebody else and buy the car or buy a house, and you can do that contract right like this. Also, in a marriage contract, you need a wali for the wife. You need her father or her brother, somebody. Muhammad, go sit over there. That's the original condition, is that there has to be a wali. Of course, there are some other conditions where the wali's role, in certain circumstances, the woman can get herself married, but the original condition is that there has to be a wali. As long as there is a wali, there has to be the wali. Now, also there has to be a sadaq, which is the dowry. Okay. Also, just like you mentioned here, khiyar al-majlis. Now, if I sit down with you and I'm buying a car and we're still sitting, so I bought the car and you agreed and you took the money, and that's fine. But we're still sitting together. Do I have the choice of revoking this contract or not? Yes, you can. We talked about this. While we're still sitting together, we haven't parted, you can still cancel this, annul it. But if you go into a marriage, while you're still sitting, you can't go back. You can't say, "Oh, this marriage is cancelled." Yes, you can divorce, But you cannot say this marriage is cancelled. So this way you'll consider it as somebody who is divorced, and she'll be considered as somebody who is divorced. So the marriage will take place right away. You follow?
To go through the process of divorce.
Yes, you have to go through the process. Yeah, of course, she will not have a iddah, but still, she's considered as divorced, and you're considered as a divorced man as well. You follow? You cannot annul it just because you, yani, there is annulment under certain conditions, yani, if there was deception or something like this. But here, just annulment just because of your own choice without a reason, no, you can't do that. But you can do it if you're doing other contracts. Like, as I said, if you're buying a car or buying a house, while you're still together, you can cancel it and go back on it, on that. Okay? The dowry, of course, yani there's many other.
What is dowry? Like, is that the dowry that the guy gives to the woman, or
Yeah.
mahar, or is
The
that
mahar.
Mahar.
What other dowry do you know about?
Well, it's very common in India for the bride to give dowry to the husband's family. Yeah, husband.
Yeah, okay.
It's a
The marriage contract is permanent. You cannot go in with the marriage and have the intention, oh, it's only for a month or two, then becomes what they call it. What they call it if somebody marries for nikah al what? Al-mut'ah. It becomes an invalid marriage in Islam. Okay? Nikah al-mut'ah is invalid. So if somebody puts a time limit, you can't. You can't do that. You cannot do this in marriage. You can do this in certain contracts, such as a rental or lease contract. But in marriage, you cannot. It has to be a permanent intention. نعم. لا فرق كبير. He says, what is the difference between the marriage of mut'ah and another marriage called the marriage of misyar? Misyar means a traveler. What is the difference? Do you guys know the marriage of the traveler? Misyar? That is somebody who, for instance, travels and passes by a country, and he looked for marriage, and he told the woman that I come to this country maybe 2 days a month or 3 days a month, or as maybe whenever I come. Do you accept marriage without while giving up your right for that I live with you? If she decides I'm going to give up this right, she may also give up the right that he supports her financially. She might be a rich woman. She doesn't want somebody living with her in the house, for instance. Sometimes happens. She does not want somebody. She likes her own space, but she wants to get married to somebody still. So he comes and goes as he wishes, and he doesn't have to support her financially. So this marriage is valid as long as the intention is forever. He doesn't go into it putting a certain time limit. But mut'ah is different. Mut'ah, he gives a certain time limit. He said we get married for a week, for instance, or we get married for a day. No, they do that.
Yeah.
So some people do that. Astaghfirullah. There's no difference between that and prostitution. No difference. What is the difference between prostitution and marrying for a couple of hours? Some people marry for a couple of hours. So all this is prohibited, of course. It cannot.
It was in the time of the Prophet, and then like this is the history behind it.
Absolutely. No, you want me to tell you the history? I can. Just like many things were at the time of the Prophet ﷺ early on in Islam and prohibited. There was alcohol early in Islam. People who died in the Battle of Badr, most of them were drinking alcohol before that because they were allowed to drink alcohol. Okay? But alcohol was forbidden after that. So many things were allowed. Yes, this kind of marriage was present in Jahiliyyah and present in early Islam. And many things were present in early Islam that were present in Jahiliyyah. So Islam didn't prohibit everything at once. It cannot happen, and people will not be able to accept it. Okay? So things were prohibited gradually, and this was one of those things. And especially also early on in Islam, people were used to it, and many men were going out in battles, and basically they cannot really, they would not accept this kind of thing. But yes, it was prohibited later on, probably in the Battle of Khaybar. That's about the 7th year. That was when it permanently became prohibited. And the narrator of the hadith is Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu. So that's why people who claim to follow Ali ibn Abi Talib, they're liars, because they follow their own desires. If they follow Ali ibn Abi Talib, the hadith you can look up the hadith, hadith Tahrim al-Mut'ah, narrated by Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu himself. So how can somebody claim to be somebody who loves Ali ibn Abi Talib and Ahl al-Bayt and follow Ali ibn Abi Talib, and then. So yes, it has a history to it. So if by the same token, let's drink alcohol then, because it was allowed, and some of the major Sahaba died early on in Islam as martyrs, and they probably were drinking alcohol the night before. But for us, it looks like a big thing, but at that time, it wasn't totally haram. Sayyid al-Shuhada Hamza himself, he says, Sayyid al-Shuhada, the greatest of all martyrs. One time he was drinking alcohol, he got drunk. He took his, and that was shortly before he died in the Battle of Uhud. He took his sword and he was running after his cousins with the sword. He almost killed them because how much he was drunk. So, but we have to know that if somebody wants to follow his desire, he can follow it. But to claim it's part of the deen, it's a huge problem. Okay? Many people, some people want to be labeled as religious, and at the same time they are corrupt. You're corrupt, say I'm corrupt. I love zina, I love zina. I love alcohol, I love alcohol. But to come and say that, oh, religion allows this, that's a big problem. Don't distort the religion. The religion has a final version of it. Basically, the final version of the religion, some things were only prohibited in the last year or prescribed in the last year. Okay? Muslims early on only prayed 2 salah. Can somebody now pray 2 salah? Say, okay, it was allowed to pray 2 rakat in the morning, 2 rakat in the evening, like I mentioned in the khutbah. This cannot be accepted, correct? People were allowed initially in the salah to talk. If you have something, you need something, your salah like this. The imam is reciting, can you give me $5 for it? Or somebody walks in, Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. What is this? Things were allowed because, huh? Or you respond to a text message or something, So,
I was once praying in Saudi, and one of the guys he picked up his phone, Ana Salih.
Now if you say a single word in the salah is
That happened in
nullified, right?
That happened in most markets in Nigeria. You see people praying, and someone wants to buy something. Say,
He doesn't want to lose the deal, right? No, but by the way, he can wave, he can make a gesture, but he cannot say a word. Okay, because for instance, clapping. If he claps, for instance, if he goes like this, okay. So he can. Sometimes the what?
Stop somebody if somebody's.
Exactly. Certain things are allowed in Salah, but it doesn't amount to actually talking. Okay. No. Okay. Inshallah. This is just still an introduction to the marriage. We have not really read the first hadith in this matter. We'll stop here, inshallah.
Still waiting for Nasir.
you probably will have finished before it comes in.